Hey, good morning to you, everyone. It is 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, in for Chris Hand, taking the day off. I'll be back on Monday, as just, needed an extra day here. So I've said, well, I'm sitting around here twiddling my thumbs. I'll be glad to step in because, again, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't get to be on every day anymore. I get to be on now and then, and I like that because the Bulldogs, the two French Bulldogs, are just getting really tired of hearing my personal rants. I need to share them with real human beings, and so glad to get the opportunity. Glad to fill in for Chris Hand. We got Joan Jones. She's in the newsroom. She'll break in. We got anything going on that we need to know about, and she'll keep us up to date on things happening not only here but around the world.
Mason pushing. I will.
You betcha, baby. I know I can count on you. How you doing, Joan?
I am well. How about you?
I'm doing really well. We're getting ready for here at the Wilson Manor. We're getting ready for a weekend of tree clearing and brush clearing.
Oh man, that should be fun.
Well, we had one of the storms came through and a couple of trees fell over, and you can't just leave them out there. You got to do something with them. So
they didn't fall on anything or on anybody. That's
I thought there for a moment one of them might have taken out a neighbor's fence, and it was really hard to see. But I went over and checked with the neighbors, and apparently we're good.
Oh, so that's good. You're lucky.
Somehow the tree fell just right, and there was no damage to the fence. That's the way it looks initially.
That's good.
Tell you what, though, when these trees, when you get that much rain, it doesn't take much to blow them over.
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I'm glad you're okay.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. It was, I lost some of the trees that are around the pool, so now the neighbors can look right into the pool. So
oh, no, that's no good.
Got to plant another tree. So.
Okay.
All right, John, we'll check in with you in a bit. Mm-hmm. I want to start out by talking about can the SAVE Act be saved? And I don't know how this is why this is being so difficult. It seems to me that when you've got a piece of legislation that says something simple like you got to have voter ID, and that in 85, I think the last number I saw, 85% of American voters, I think it's even 77% of Democrats want to see this thing passed. They want to see this become the law of the land because, they want integrity in the voting process. And so, it is a huge tool toward that. Why is it so difficult for us to imagine that we ought to be able to, when we go to cast our ballots, we ought to be able to prove we are who we say we are? I mean, it just seems like, for everything else in the world, if I want to go down and buy a packet of, Sudafed because I've got hay fever, I've got to show a driver's license. Why in the world is this so difficult? It's not beyond us for everybody to have some form, and in some places you could say a utility bill would suffice in some cases. In some places where they use require some ID. It's just not that difficult. But at the very least we ought to. If it takes a driver's license to get it on a plane, if it takes a driver's license to buy a beer, if it. Whatever, all the things. I once had to give, like in the state of Maryland when I lived there, I wanted to get a fishing license. You wouldn't believe the amount of information I had to get the state in order to have a license to not catch fish, because I never catch any fish. But what I'm saying is it was incredible. They wanted to know my cell phone number. They wanted to know, my cell phone carrier. They wanted to know, who my firstborn child was. It was unbelievable, the level of information. Yet it's too much to ask. Hey, when you come to cast your ballot, to make sure that you're actually authorized to do that, and you are who you say you are. So, it's maddening to see what seems to be, to most Americans, it's hard to get 85% of Americans to agree on anything, but about 85% of Americans agree we want voter ID. We want to pass this Save America Act. Let's get it done. And the House of Representatives, which, of course, is the body in government that is most responsive to the people, they've passed it like 4 or 5 times now, one iteration or another. And then it goes over to the Senate, and it just hits a wall. And there's frustration. Over at the White House, Caroline Leavitt was talking about the frustration that the president is feeling because we can't seem to get this matter through the Senate. In this particular case, they're trying to do it through a budget measure, which would only require 50 votes. And Thune says, John Thune, majority leader of the Senate, says, I don't have 50 votes. Well, we're in control of that body, but that means he doesn't have, 50 Republican votes to push this thing through. So, he says, I can't do it. And this is frustrating the White House. Here's Caroline Leavitt.
His patience is running out. He wants to see as much of the Save America passed as possible by the August recess. He knows that's what the American people want to see passed. He was just traveling on the road yesterday, spoke about this, and there was a very loud applause from the people in the audience, the everyday Americans, because voter ID is common sense. They want proof of citizenship in our elections, and the president feels very strongly about that. And I would just add, the American people elected overwhelmingly Republicans to lead not just this White House, but also the House and the Senate. The House did its job. The Senate needs to do its job, too.
Well, that did not sit well with Leader Thune. He was said to be bristling at such comments. This is from Newsmax. Senate Majority Leader John Thune pushed back Thursday after the White House voiced frustration over the upper chamber's inability to pass the Save America Act, a signature reform piece from President Donald Trump's second term. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that at Thursday's briefing that Trump's patience is running thin. At a rally Wednesday in Marietta, Georgia, Trump implored the Senate to end the 60-vote filibuster for most legislation. He also encouraged supporters to tell Thune and tell him to get this stuff approved. Okay, well, Thune bristled. Here it is. He bristled, he did. What happens when a senator gets irritated? They bristle. I don't know what, bristle. He's bristling. Thune bristled when asked about Leavitt's comments at a briefing with reporters. He indicated that the White House should call senators to gain support for the measure because there aren't enough votes to pass it. Here's what he said. Maybe she, Leavitt, or somebody else ought to get on the phone and get the votes, right? It's 50 around here, Thune said, according to The Hill. Instead of finger pointing at Republicans, they might think about going after the people who are stopping it on the floor, which is the Democrats. And if there are Republicans they think are gettable, get on the phone. Okay, so the Save America Act, which would require identification to cast a ballot and documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote, has stalled in the Senate because of the 60-vote threshold. This is an attempt to do it a different way. Republicans have a 53-seat majority, but Thune has repeatedly said there are not enough Democrats' votes to overcome the filibuster. Okay. And he's also now saying that there isn't enough support among Republicans to do away with the filibuster. So this is where we are. Okay, so, if you don't know the history here, so anything that goes through the Senate requires, if it's difficult, 60 votes, unless it's one of these unanimous consent things that nobody cares about. But difficult legislation almost always requires not 50 votes, but 60 votes, because if one senator says, I'm going to filibuster that, then all of a sudden now you don't need 50 votes, you need 60 votes to overcome the filibuster and move forward. So there you go. I mean, that's what it's going to take to get that done. And so they don't have the 51 votes to change the filibuster. So they don't have 51 votes to pass this measure. They don't have 50 votes. Really, you just get to 50 votes, then you get the vice president to come in, break the tie. If they can't get to 50, they got a 53 vote majority, and they can't get to 50 on this. So where are they? Well, they're going to be murky about that, and they're not going to tell you because nobody really wants to be put on the spotlight. Nobody really wants to have a vote on this thing in the United States Senate. But let me just tell you, I covered this institution a long time, many years. I walked those halls, and I think my sense of it is pretty good, even today. I think there are a great number of senators, Republican and Democrat, who do not want to get rid of the filibuster and will never get rid of the filibuster under the way things are going right now. They just will not give it up. People say, well, why is that not going to happen? Because I think there are a number of senators who look at what the founding fathers intended, and they wanted the Senate to be different than the House of Representatives. And they wanted it to be difficult. Not supposed to be easy to pass legislation. And I think that, any senator can stop a bill, and that's a power they don't want to give up. All they got to do is say, I'm going to filibuster that. Now, all of a sudden, they can pretty much shut down a lot of legislation. No senator wants to give up the power to stop a piece of legislation that they disagree with. So I don't see them giving up the filibuster anytime soon. And they would say, well, if we don't do it now, then what will happen? Well, that means that, if let's say that the Democrats take over the body, they say, well, then the Democrats will do it. And then, then they'll just go out there and ram through all their stuff. I don't think the Democrats have the vote for this either. I just don't think that they have them, because I think there are a tremendous number of Republicans and Democrats who will stand to protect the filibuster. So, yeah, this is difficult, and I don't know why we can't get this done. I guess, to me, it seems that if we have a majority in the Senate of 53 votes, I'd like to know this number. How close are we? Do we need like one or two? Are we at, 48? And who are those who are standing in the way of this piece of legislation? Who are the people who say, put them on the record? They don't want to be on the record. They'd rather not be on the record, but let's put them on the record, find out who they are, and let's put some pressure on our side. If we can do this with 50 votes and then have the vice president come in and break the tie, we ought to do it. And if we can't get, who are the Republicans? Well, I think we know who some of them are. Susan Collins of Maine. You got probably Senator Murkowski, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. We don't really know where Mitch McConnell is, but he's probably one of the votes that would be against this. And I'm not even sure that you could roll him in a wheelchair and have him vote at this point. We just don't know what his situation is, do we? Not truly. So, right there's three, and there's got to be some more. So find out who they are. Let's put some pressure on them. Calling the majority leader's office to express your displeasure is a tried and true American tradition, and I would never dissuade somebody from reaching out and leaving a message with your elected leaders, letting them know how irritated you are, but ultimately the way you solve this problem is by getting enough Republican votes to get the measure passed. Who are the Republican votes that need to be persuaded? Those are the people that need to be called. Those are the people that need to have their elbows twisted, their wrists twisted, find out if you can get them across the goal line. It ought to be attainable if we have the information, but they're not sharing that particular information. Look, it's stuck. I don't see it getting unstuck right now, but calling Thune, I think, is as frustrated as anyone. I think he would love to get this piece of legislation passed, but he doesn't have the Republican votes. And in a moment, you're going to say, well, then we need to get rid of people like Susan Collins. We need to get rid of people like Lisa Murkowski. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's not probably a great strategy. You may disagree with me, but I don't think it's a great strategy, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour. of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand.
The guaranteed offer is the simplest, least stressful way to sell your home. You go to our website, you fill out a quick form, we set an appointment, we bring you an all-cash offer. Literally, there's no lockbox on the front of your house, there's no showings, we pay all cash, we close in as little as 21 days, stress-free. We've helped thousands of homeowners just like you sell your home the hassle-free way with the guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate.
We'll tell you how the board of directors at the Nashville Zoo voted after receiving a compromise offer from DC Blocks. That's at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Joan Jones in the newsroom getting it done. She'll keep us all covered on what's going on around our area and around the world. I'm Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand. You're listening to The Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good to be in here today to get some stuff straightened out. So everybody says, well, we've got this situation with people like, Susan Collins, and you got Lisa Murkowski, and who knows what's going on these days with Mitch McConnell, and there are others who are not always reliable Republican votes. And you say, well, why don't we just get rid of them? Well, the reason is you got to be careful here. You push Susan Collins, who has an R after her name. You push Lisa Murkowski, who has an R after her name, and you push them too hard, and they'll go right over to the other side, and you lose the majority. They're rhinos. There's no doubt about it, but they have R's after their names, and without them, you run the risk of losing control of the body, which is perhaps the most important thing from our standpoint in maintaining power. Conservatives still controlling, the framework of power. So, it gets frustrating. You can't live with them. You can't live without them. But it would be better, I guess, to have them, be moderate rhinos within the party, giving us control of that body, than to be running to the other side. Now, the other side of it is also true. We got people like Fetterman on the Democrat side who could well come over to the Republican side, and they have to be very careful with him and people of his ilk. On the Democrat side of the equation, because they can't push him too hard, or he'll run right into the loving arms of the Republicans. So we'll keep an eye on this. Right now, let's call it 29 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk, and time for the news.
Good morning, I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The board of directors for the Nashville Zoo rejecting a proposal from DC Blocks that would have changed their data center plans to quell the uproar. News 2's Kendall Ashman.
According to the zoo, the proposal would have let DC Blocks build a 69,000 square foot data center while eliminating the proposal for a bigger facility and returning some of the land to the zoo.
Now, the board's rejection, unanimous. News 2 reports that DC Blocks has already closed on that property, but Metro Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell is still working on imposing eminent domain to take the property. Scenes from a dramatic rescue off the Washington state coast last night when a seaplane crashed just north of Seattle, forcing its 11 occupants into the water.
Officials say that Kenmore Air flight took off at 4:30 p.m. from Lake Union Thursday for a scenic flight tour bound for Roche Harbor on San Juan Island. It crashed at 5:15 p.m. Investigators are now working to determine what forced the pilot to attempt an emergency landing in Shallow Bay on Susha Island. Kenmore Air CEO says in a statement, "We are grateful that everyone aboard has been accounted for, and our immediate focus is ensuring our passengers and pilot receive the care and support they need."
That is ABC's Trevor Ault. And in New York City, Jewish leaders are demanding that a man who stabbed 2 people on the west side yesterday while yelling Allahu Akbar be prosecuted for a hate crime. Eric Goldstein is head of a Jewish group, also asking Mayor Zohran Mamdani to stop fanning the flames of hatred and division.
We're horrified and heartbroken by yesterday's attacks. But to be clear, we're no longer surprised. For far too long now, we've watched the rhetoric surrounding Israel and the Jewish community grow increasingly toxic. That's why the words of our elected leaders matter so much.
That is the latest news. We've got your weather up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, this is Pastor Allen. Join us on Super Talk 99.7, Sunday evenings from 7 to 8. We're going to look at the news from a biblical perspective.
I have changed my tune on FIFA. I'm excited.
June 26th, there's a FIFA World Cup match in Seattle. This was designated as the Pride match. So it's going to be the gayest soccer game you've ever seen. And everybody was really excited about it. And it's in Seattle. So you can only imagine there's going to be like naked bicyclists and like a lot of penises. Way too many.
Yeah, more than none.
The teams that were selected to play in the super gay soccer game, Iran and Egypt.
No.
It's like,
this has to be a troll. Both of them have like in Iran, if you're gay, that's like jail for life. And I think that's them being like lenient. Yeah.
And Egypt also has draconian anti-gay laws. I've never been so excited for a soccer game.
It's 35 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand today on the Chris Hand Show. Joan Jones is in the newsroom. She's pushing, making sure that we're well informed on everything that's going on around us right now. And there's a lot of stuff going on. And then you got Mason pushing the blinky buttons in a very effective way and solving my camera problems during the commercial break. He's like, you'd think during a commercial break the guy could take just a little breather, but no. We have
Keep
to
me
work
on my
through
toes,
other
it's
issues.
okay.
That's right. That's all right. Well, I'm glad we worked through it. We did lose our camera signal for a little while, but we are back on Super Talk TV. And phone lines, by the way, are always open at 615-737-9986. I'm talking about, the situation with the SAVE Act. And look, I understand people get frustrated with me. And here's where I'm at. I mean, I sort of have a different perspective on some of this stuff, maybe because I covered the institution for many years. I saw how this worked out. I saw how it practically played out when you made some adjustments to the filibuster, and it didn't work out well for Democrats, even though it was their idea. It seemed like they would want to be very cautious about this, and I think maybe they are very cautious about it, having seen what happened. So, I'm just being a pragmatist. I don't think it's my job to tell you the things that you want to hear. I think it's my job to take the information that I have, the expertise that I have, and try to tell you what I think is true as best I can discern it. We're always trying to discern it. I'm not always right, but I think I've got a pretty good record of getting things mostly right as we look into the political crystal ball. And so, let me help you understand why I don't think this whole thing is going to get resolved anytime soon on the filibuster because, as I said, senators value the power to shut down any piece of legislation that they don't like, and they're not likely to give that up. And when Thune says, I don't have the 60 votes to do this, the regular way, I don't even have 50 votes that I can count on in the United States Senate to do it through this whole budget reconciliation process. What he's telling you is, I've got a lot of independent senators here who are not willing to move the needle on this in any direction. I think, is it doable? Can you save the SAVE Act? Yes, if you can figure out who the 3 or 4 or 5 senators on the Republican side of the equation who are standing in the way, you get the thing to 50. That's all you got to do. So how many votes do we need? Do we need 2, 3? Maybe if that's all there is, maybe it's attainable. If we need 10 votes, probably not attainable. But we don't know how many votes are, and they're not sharing that information because senators don't want to be on the record on this matter. So, yes, frustrating because so many Americans want this. I want it so badly I can taste it. I just got to be honest with you, though. I don't see a situation changing unless we can identify who the handful of Republican senators are. And you can call the majority leader all you want to, and that's, if that makes you feel good, fine. But you really need to hit those senators who are standing in the way. We need to name some names and make some phone calls and have those people feel the pressure. That's the way to get this accomplished. But right now, the way it stands, being just a pragmatist about the thing and, being a vote counter, which is what Thune is, he's the herder of cats here. He said he doesn't have the votes. I don't think he's got the votes. I don't even think he's close. So, here's an interesting thing, talking about power and how it is wielded in Washington, D.C. Here's a guy who figured it out when he was a senator as a Democrat. His name's Joe Manchin. He was a former governor from the state of West Virginia. And as a Democrat, he was a thorn in the side of Democrats because he was always, trying to do business with folks on the other side of the equation. He understood that being the person who would sometimes vote with the left and sometimes vote with the right is a very powerful thing to be in Washington, D.C., because you're always in demand. Your vote was always up for grabs. And you had to make the decision about, well, am I going to go to the left or am I going to go to the right here? He had that flexibility because, West Virginia is like a very, very red state. He was a Democrat elected in a red state. Anytime he voted with Trump, he probably was not going to get any blowback back home. And so, he would often vote with Trump. He would often vote with conservatives, Republicans, but sometimes he would go the other way and vote with Democrats, and it made him incredibly powerful. You know who the guy who's figured that out now is? John Fetterman. He's the new Manchin. I mean, he's the guy who is, it seems to me, putting himself in a position of real power because he sometimes votes with the Democrats. Many times he votes with the conservatives. His vote is always in demand, which means, okay, when your vote is in demand, you get a lot of the things that you want. You need a little piece of legislation passed, you get it passed because you helped them out on this or you helped them out on that. It infuriates the Democrats. It delights, I think, the Republicans that Fetterman will play ball with them for some time. And I think you should just come on over. Come on over here to the dark side, Senator. It'd be fine. You'd be a great Republican senator. And by the way, I think there's history on this. I want to double check. I want to say Arlen Specter was at one point a Democrat, and senator from Pennsylvania. I think I'm right on that. Yes, I think I'm correct. And then flipped over and became a Republican. That's my memory of it. I'll have to double check that, but I think that's right. So there's room, always room. But as it stands right now, I think he sort of likes this idea of, I'm a Democrat, but I'm going to vote, against the Democrats sometimes when I think they're wrong. I'm going to be independent. I think that plays well back home, but I think it also allows him to accrue a tremendous amount of power within the United States Senate because everybody is always after him and willing to deal with him to get whatever vote he needs. The Democrats need to vote. Well, what are you going to do for me? Republicans need to vote. What are you going to do for me? It's a pretty smart way to be. They also say, by the way, I've always found this very interesting, that the real power in the Supreme Court is in the middle. Interesting idea, isn't it? I mean, so if you're, a lot of people say, well, the Chief Justice has got the power, and he has a lot of power. But in the Supreme Court, if you're that person in the middle, and sometimes you work with the left and sometimes you work with the right, you accrue a tremendous amount of influence and power within that body. The most powerful United States senators, one could argue, the most powerful United States justices of the Supreme Court are those who sometimes go left and sometimes go right. It's infuriating. It's angering. But that's how that's the really smart way to accrue power, is by being in the middle and working with both sides. It's an interesting concept. I really wish we could have more cooperation. And again, I have never been this person who believes that you got to have 100% of what you want, or, you can't pass a piece of legislation. What is the old saying? I believe this with every fiber of my being. Yeah, I mean, if I can get 70% of what I want, I'm probably going to take that deal. And that's the old military 70% solution. Take the 70% solution every time. Get 70% of what you want, take the deal. And I think that's not a bad way to go. I mean, you could live to fight another day for the other 30%, but today you got 70% of what you wanted. Take it and run with it. I've never understood this whole concept of saying, well, if you can't have 100% of what you want, then you can't vote for any of it. What sense does that make? There was a time, I got to tell you, when I first came to Washington in the 1980s, that Democrats and Republicans, I came in the era of, talk about powerful political figures. Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, and Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States. And, they would beat each other's brains out, and then they would call each other up and say, hey, let's have a beer after work. And they'd sit down and they'd say, well, let's find the middle ground here, and we can both walk away with something here that we're proud of. Doesn't happen much anymore. That whole concept is gone, but it used to be that way. Very interesting times. Times have changed. But, I do want to also point this out. A lot of people are frustrated with how slow the Senate is. and how the Senate slows things down. And it is maddening when you see something like the SAVE Act. We can all agree that we want to see it. But I don't want to get too frustrated with the fact that the Senate slows things down because, in the big picture, what do I want out of my legislature? Not a lot. I don't really want them passing a bunch of laws. I want them to move slowly on this stuff. The House is always going to be very reactive because the people in the House get elected every 2 years. Every 2 years that there's a federal election, they're up for re-election. Senate, only 1/3 of the senators up for re-election at any given time. So they got 6-year terms, and they're going to be a little more circumspect, and they're going to be able to slow things down because they have the filibuster and other things. I don't think it's supposed to be easy to pass legislation. I wish we passed a lot less legislation. What's the old saying? The government which governs best is that government which governs least. I'm very much of that ilk. I mean, I think we pass far too much legislation, far too many regulations. I think we would do better if we slowed down the process. Now, I think this is a great piece of legislation. SAVE Act ought to be passed, and we ought to see if we can figure out some way to do that. But I don't want to give up the fact that the Senate was designed by our founding fathers to slow the process down, to take a deep breath. And the filibuster is part of that, yeah? And everybody says, yeah, but Wilson, and I can hear you saying it now, because I hear this all the time. Wilson, what will happen, though, if the Democrats get a control of it, they will get rid of the filibuster. Not if they don't have the votes. And I don't think they got the votes. I think there are a lot of people on both sides very interested in protecting the filibuster. It's not a popular thing to say, and they don't want to particularly be out front saying it, but I think that is the case. And so I have perhaps a wee bit of sympathy for John Thune, because every senator, it's not like being a member of the House. When you're a senator, you are an island unto yourself. Tremendous power. And the most important power that you have is that you can slow the process down if you don't like the way it's going, in order to have a conversation and perhaps have your ideas considered. I don't see any senator wanting to give up. I don't see many senators who are willing to give up that power. So we'll see how it all stands. Anyway, interesting, isn't it? I love this idea, though, that about I mentioned Joe Manchin. He's not in politics right now. He's on the outside, but he's very much pushing this whole idea of supporting and recruiting people from the middle, and that's an interesting idea. When you push hard, strategically, you push real hard, and you end up pushing to the right and hard to the left. There are a group of people in the middle who perhaps don't feel connected. And is that an opportunity for, a more independent party or a third party to come in as independents and try to scoop up those folks in the middle, which many people say is the largest voting bloc in America, the independent vote? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see as we watch, heading into the midterms. We'll get into that a little bit later here on the Chris Hand Show. Right now, it is 50 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis from Super Talk 99.7 WTN and Nashville's Morning News. I'm here with Chris from USS, United Structural Systems. He's checking out my basement, my foundation, my crawl space to see if there's anything wrong. Fingers crossed. All right, so there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is we found some cracks in my basement wall. The good news, I've got Chris here who's going to walk me through the next steps.
Yes, so unfortunately, your house has been subject to the pressure of the dirt. The hydrostatic pressure, heavy dirt pushes on foundation walls, and you've got a little bit of what we call bowing. So that wall is pushed in a little bit. But we have a lifetime warranty solution for that. So we install, usually in a day or two, this can be done in most situations. We install carbon fiber straps, which keep the wall from moving inward at any point in the future. It's a lifetime warranty for anybody that ever owns this house. So it's a quick and routine thing that we do, but it yields some long-lasting benefits.
It's a great selling point if you want to sell your house.
Absolutely. Good thing about our warranties is they're not only transferable, like the contract says, they're automatically transferred when you sell your house. So you don't have to sign any paperwork or even send us an email saying that you sold your house. Warranty would transfer to the next owner.
Coming up, we'll tell you why a Southwest Airlines flight attendant was arrested at BNA. That's at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And did you see the story, Joan, about I think it was a FedEx worker in Memphis who is finding a package and looking in the package, and it turned out to be a 6-foot-long iguana.
What?
And they apparently had to wrestle the iguana because the iguana got out of the packaging, and they had to wrestle it into a new package and continue it and shipping it on to its destination. Apparently, if you need an iguana, you can have it delivered via FedEx. I didn't know
Who would think that that's legal?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so, but apparently the iguana was delivered without incident.
Boy, the hazards of being a FedEx or a UPS guy, huh?
What's in this? An iguana, you say. Okay. Pretty nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, she'll have the news here coming up in just a few moments. Very quick, just sort of check in on where we're going with Iran right now. It looks like things are picking up. And the question is, yes, we've had many attacks over many nights in which we've sort of stepped up our attacks on Iran because they haven't lived up to the things that they were, they said they were going to do, and then they have acted badly and said there needs to be a reaction, and that has to happen. The question is, is this going to, return to the table, and can they actually have meaningful discussions? It seems every time we have meaningful discussions, about an hour after those discussions, complete, the Iranians want to change the terms of the deal, or they just ignore the terms of the deal and do what they want to do. So are we headed for a massive attack? On one hand, it's very interesting because, Trump really has got him against the wall. But the Iranians are counting that he needs to get out of Iran in time for things to settle for the midterm elections, and they're probably not wrong about that. That would be a good outcome. So this big, giant game of who's going to blink first, this giant game of chicken is going on with the Iranians, continuing to push their boundaries and cause problems. We have to react. And the Iranians are counting on the hope that Trump is going to walk away because he needs to get out to settle the economy before the midterm elections. But I don't think they know Trump that well. One thing that I will say here is when you look at the midterm elections, I'm increasingly convinced that these midterm elections, which theoretically should not be good for our side, things are not looking so bad. I mean, I've seen worse. And I'm going to get into all of that, I promise you, in the next hour right here on Super Talk 99.7. I'm going to take a look at where we are in the midterm election. Where could we be historically if things were to follow, historical precedent? And can all of these redistricting efforts, will they have enough change to keep our side in power in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate? We'll get into all of that, I promise you, coming up here in the next hour right here on Super Talk 99.7. It is Brian Wilson who is in the house for Chris Hand, who will be back on Monday. And coming up next, it's time for Joan Jones in the news right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand.
Good morning, I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. A Southwest Airlines flight attendant arrested by ICE agents at Nashville International Airport. Lorenzo Thompson is his name. He's in the country illegally from Jamaica.
Thompson is a Jamaican citizen and came to the U.S. in 2021. He was arrested 10 days ago while working here in Nashville. Well, the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement says he was working towards obtaining U.S. citizenship.
That is Channel 4's Holly Thompson. No relation. DHS says that he was cooperative with ICE officers and was arrested without incident. He's being held at a correctional center in Mississippi. 2 men recovering from stabbing injuries in New York City. They were attacked on the Upper West Side yesterday by a man yelling Allahu Akbar, what appears to be a terrorist attack. Now, this morning, Jewish leaders held a press conference, and they're demanding that the city's leader stop making anti-Semitic remarks.
Mayor Mamdani, stop fanning the flames of hatred and division. The consequences are not abstract. They're playing out on our streets. But make no mistake, we're not going anywhere.
And those People are also calling on prosecutors to file hate crime charges against that suspect. The White House plans to push non-compliant states to turn over their voter rolls. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon says she's taking the effort to purge non-citizens from voter rolls to the Supreme Court. She also tells Fox Business that New Jersey is one of those states.
Now, since the governor made this announcement, we've opened up an investigation. We asked her to disclose to us the names of the 6,600 individuals who were wrongfully put on the voter rolls and then the 400 who voted knowing that they weren't entitled to. And today she hasn't responded to us yet, but she did tell the New York Times and others that she wasn't going to give us that information because, quote unquote, we would weaponize it and she doesn't trust us with the data. Well, who can't be trusted with data, Governor Cheryl? It seems like it's actually New Jersey.
Yeah, Dillon says so far the investigation has uncovered hundreds of thousands of people on voter rolls in 20 states who shouldn't have been there. The Trump administration also filing a lawsuit against Colorado for allowing illegal immigrants to qualify for discounted in-state tuition and financial aid. The Justice Department says that Colorado is withholding the same benefits from Americans who are living in the U.S. legally. A spokesperson for Governor Jared Polis's office calling the lawsuit absurd. And Governor Bill Lee has signed President Trump's pledge to prevent Americans from footing the bill for data centers. Nearly 24 other Republican governors also signing on to it. It's what the president calls the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. Now, it's not an official regulation, but it does lay out guidelines for data center companies to, quote, build, bring, or buy all the energy needed to construct and operate their facilities. That's the latest news. We've got weather up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 5 minutes past the hour. Let's call it 6 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am not Chris Hand. I'm Brian Wilson filling in for Chris, who will return on Monday, taking a nice long weekend, be with the fam and other stuff. So he'll be back in his regular place on Monday, and I'll be returning to relative obscurity here in bucolic Watertown. Hope you're having a great day. Looks like the weather's going to be pretty nice today, and then pretty sweltering and maybe even rainy over the weekend. So, this is the day to get some things done in the yard before you get to the weekend, because I think it's going to be sort of wet this weekend. We'll see how it goes. Got a lot of stuff to cover. Hope that you can settle in with me for a little while, because I want to talk about the looming. Yes, we can now say they are looming. What are midterm elections? They are always looming. They're on the horizon. They're not far. They're looming. So they're out there. I mean, we're less than 100 days away from the midterm elections now. We're getting ready to vote on primary stuff here in the state of Tennessee. And I would encourage you to make sure you're involved in that process without fail. But let's talk a little bit about what's happening with regard to the midterms. Are we going to be able to hold on to the House? Are we going to be able to hold on to the Senate? How's that all going to play out? And so, the first thing that I do in a situation like that is I look at the historical trends. And midterm elections, on average, when you look at them over the long periods of time and you look at how they play out, generally do not go well for the party in power. And we are definitely the party in power. I mean, we've got the White House. We control the Senate, such as it is. We control the House, such as it is. We have a 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. So, I mean, you can't say we're not the party in power. In the last election cycle, there was the pendulum swung to the right in a good way for our side. But now, what happens traditionally is if you look at past and if you look at history, if past is prologue and history is our guide, these midterm elections should not go well for Republicans. It would not be uncommon. There have been midterm elections where the party in power lost 20 or 30 or Obama, if memory serves, I believe I'm correct in saying this, Obama lost 60 House seats in his midterm election. Remember when he said he got shellacked? That was a shellacking, the likes of which we'd never seen. So, all I say is, if you look at just historical trends, it's an uphill climb for the party in power generally. So, in a situation, in an environment where politics are so polarized, and the left is pulling hard to the left and the right pulling hard to the right, you wonder, how's this all going to play out for Republicans in this midterm election? Are they going to lose the House and the Senate? Well, in an environment where it would not be unusual for them to be down 10 or 15 or 20 or even more seats, that's just not happening. If there is a blue wave coming, I don't see it being a huge blue wave. I see it being more of a ripple. Right now, the way things stand, Real Clear Politics average of polls on the generic question of who you're going to vote for in your House race. You're going to vote for the Republican. You're going to vote for your Republican nominee or the Democrat nominee. That's just it doesn't get into names, doesn't get into personalities. Just it's the generic question. Right now, Democrats are only, the way they look at it, going to pick up about 5 seats. Right, 5 seats, not 10, not 15, not 20. That's where we are right now. If you go with all this, the averages of all of the polls that they got out there, that's where the generic question lands. It's a very slight edge to the Democrats. And I got to say, well, how is it that it's not, in this environment, how is it that it's not 20 seats? It's not. It's not developing. So what's going on? Well, I suspect that probably more than the mainstream media is letting you know, I think that probably the economy is getting stronger for some people. Probably it helped a little bit that gas prices went down, but, listen, I'm promising the way things look right now, gas prices are going to go up. They're going to continue to fluctuate, but it probably helped a little bit that was the case. And I don't know, maybe people are, are really happy with the tax cuts they got. I don't know. That could be part of it. I think it's entirely possible that the other part of this is that the Democrats have pulled so far to the left that a lot of people are disenchanted with the Democrat Party right now. And their infatuation with communism and socialism and all those other isms. Is it possible that so many people have said, that I just can't vote for where the Democrats are right now? That's not me. I think that's entirely possible. One way or the other, if you look at the House race with the Democrats on average answering the generic question, you're going to vote for a Democrat, you're going to vote for a Republican. Democrats only up about 5 points and change. It's 5.4 on average, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls. That's not bad. And we have a situation where we're redistricting a lot of these things to our advantage. And, if all we need to do is pick up 5 seats, maybe we'll do it that way, right? Yeah. Did you hear this? This is really big news. It really has to do with us right in our own backyard. A federal panel has decided that Tennessee congressional map is okay. This congressional map would likely give all U.S. House seats to 9 Republican winners. In other words, it's been drawn with the advantage to conservatives in all 9 congressional districts. This is from the Tennessee Star. In a decision released after early voting for primary elections already began, a panel of 3 federal judges on Thursday, that was yesterday, declined to block Tennessee's newly redrawn congressional map from taking effect before the 2026 midterm elections. Finding the plaintiffs unlikely to succeed in proving their claim, the Tennessee General Assembly used race to set boundaries during the redistricting process. The decision came in response to a request by the American Civil Liberties Union attorneys representing Memphis residents and nonprofits who sued. Tennessee lawmakers began the redistricting process following a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in Louisiana versus Calais, which held that Louisiana unconstitutionally used race to create 2 majority black congressional districts, effectively prohibiting states from relying on race to draw congressional districts, while still allowing them to be drawn to deliver a partisan advantage to a political party. That ruling from the Supreme Court changed things to the point where Tennessee, we're going to give all 9 of our congressional districts likely going to end up in Republican hands. Never know for sure, but likely, the way they're drawn, that would be the likely outcome, knowing the politics here. And you've got Democrats who are, I think, perhaps alienating a great number of voters more than they realize with all of this Mamdani nonsense, with all of this socialism nonsense. I'm going to talk more this hour about that and talk a little bit about why it is that we seem to be, this seems to be an attractive thing to so many voters and how it's likely to turn out and my thoughts on the whole thing. But I mean, it is happening. Perhaps they have alienated so many voters that this blue wave is not developing. Very quickly, let's look at the Senate very quickly. It's well within the possibility that we could have a 50-50 Senate. And that would not be a horrible outcome. It would not be the best of outcomes. I'd love to have an outright majority in the Senate. But if 50-50 is what we get, that's doable because we have the vice president who comes in and break ties, which means that Republicans would still control that body. 50-50 is not a horrible outcome. I'd like to see a better outcome. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average has it likely to fall 51 Republicans, 49 Democrats. So Democrats would pick up 2 seats. Again, I mean, it's going to be tick tight. These things are going to be very, very tight. And so, what's likely to happen? I don't know. It would It would, if we could resolve issues in Iran quickly and effectively without giving up all the things that we're trying to accomplish there, if we could do that, then I would feel a lot better about things. But even with what we have going on, it seems to me that we are headed for a very close midterm election. I do not see a blue wave developing. I see maybe a blue ripple, and maybe that ripple could be mitigated by these new congressional seats that Republicans are picking up throughout the South and the Southeast. So we'll see how that all works out. We'll look at that very closely. This, by the way, this decision by the federal panel in Tennessee, big dog deal. It's done. That's it. Don't see it going any further. The redrawn map will be used in the 2026 midterms as we have seen them develop. Here's a story from thehill.com I found interesting. Democrats brush off fears within their party about the threat of Democrat socialism. Democrats in the House and Senate are pushing back at any idea that their party is in trouble because of a debate between the left and center over the direction of the Democrat Party, saying wins by Democrat socialists in primaries don't mean the party is being taken over. Well, yeah, it sort of does. The divisions over Israel in particular are pitting Democrats against one another. Some pointed to the long career of Senator Bernie Sanders, who caucuses with Democrats, to argue there's nothing for the party to be worried about. I've lived in the Senate with an avowed socialist, Bernie Sanders, for years, said Dick Durbin. Oh, there's that name. Found him to be a good person I work with, that I agree with many times. So I think the tent for the Democrat Party can accommodate diversity, said the aptly named Dick Durbin. Well, you know, I don't know. I just don't think that's true. Now, I mean, I do get that there's a great interest in this whole idea of socialism and communism. It sounds great. If, you know, for people who have not applied themselves well in life, who think that they are the victims in the world, sounds great to them. Yeah, I'm going to get some free stuff here. I'm going to get me some free broccoli down at the New York City owned grocery stores. You know, I'm going to get me free rides on the bus, and I'm going to get the this, that, and the other. Free. It's not free. It's not going to be free at all. Somebody has to pay for it. But it sounds good. Oh, yeah, good. I love free stuff. I want free stuff. I don't think that many people, I think there are enough people in America who see through this whole socialism thing, and I think this could be one of those cases. And I think it may well really reveal itself in the next few days. They've gone too far with this whole socialism thing. They've pushed the party so far left that a great number of Democrats in this country are just not going to be able to be on board with that. You know, the one thing I've always noticed about Democrats is that, you know, when they push on something, they tend to just go a little too far and lose track of where the American people truly are. In their zeal to change everything about America that they don't like, they go a step too far. Well, we got, you know, we got some momentum here, and they're talking in their own echo chamber. They get all excited and they keep pushing and they keep pushing. And I've seen it happen where Americans go, you know, I don't really think I can be on board with you on that. So they led and they turned around and nobody was following. And some of that may be going on with these Democrats. It'd be very interesting to watch as we get a little closer. Right now, though, I mean, just big picture here, I don't see the blue wave developing the way Democrats might, you know, have expected it to develop in this midterm election, at least not yet. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Up ahead, John Rich comes to the rescue of a Robertson County man who's about to lose his property to the IRS. What an interesting story. It's coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Thank you very much, Joan Jones. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Glad that you were with us here on this Friday, July 24th. Chris Hand returns on Monday. He'll be back. I'm just filling in so you have a little time, long weekend with the fam. That's a big fam he's got to keep up with there, so I'm doing that. We were talking a moment ago about the midterm elections and where things are, and I just think it's sort of interesting to look at where we might be for 2028 when it comes time for our presidential elections. You know, for one reason or another, we in America decided some time back that, Iowa was going to have their caucus first, and then we're going to go to New Hampshire. So those two states do have sort of an inflated ability to impact how the politics of the country unfold. I mean, it seems like it's generally all decided by the time you get to South Carolina, right? Yeah, it goes Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, boom, 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 and by then it's all decided, and we get to vote, but it's too late in the primary process by that point. So we have to look at what's going on with great interest, let's say, for example, in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, here we go. You ready? Granite State poll, here's where the Democrats are ranking the potential 28 candidates. Number one at the top of the list, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 22% said they would support, and this is New Hampshire, Ocasio-Cortez if the primary were held today, slightly ahead of Pete Buttigieg. So it's AOC 22%, Buttigieg 21%. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat of Arizona, comes in third at 9%. California Governor Gavin Newsom, 8%. Bernie Sanders, really, are you kidding me? 6%. But at the almost near the bottom is Kamala Harris at 5%. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. So, that's pretty interesting. Again, this is a Granite State poll, New Hampshire. And Ocasio-Cortez star seems to be rising. It's a higher up 7% over where it was in February. So isn't that interesting? The Republican side of the equation, they did the same thing in New Hampshire because, again, it has an inflated importance in our possible process. So where are we on there? Okay, the poll finds Vice President J.D. Vance at 36%, Marco Rubio trailing at 26%, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul at 8%, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley 6%. She's at 8%, 6% for Ron DeSantis, 4% for Tulsi Gabbard, 2% Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, who would be fun to watch on the campaign trail if nothing else. So there is where we are on that. So I would say that probably the real interesting thing here is that while Vance is leading in this poll, he has a lot more name ID as vice president than perhaps the Secretary of State does. The numbers for Rubio are on the increase. Rubio has proven himself to be a pretty sharp fella. I don't know whether at the end of the day, 28 is going to be Vance Rubio or Rubio Vance. I kind of like, I can see things I like about either one of those. If it were me personally, I just would say probably would lean a hair more toward Rubio Vance. I just think he's a remarkably talented candidate and a man who could appeal to Hispanic voters in a huge way. Could be a game changer. So I see a lot of good there. But I mean, wow! When you compare our bench, we're talking about people like Vance and Rubio at the top of our bench. And even after that, a lot of the people who are not even polling very well would be totally great candidates. You look at the other side, and it's AOC and Buttigieg. That's the best they got? Wow. really surprising how this is all shaping up. I mean, it's going to be a choice for America. And again, have the Democrats, or they push themselves too far with all of this communism talk? That's going to be the topic of our next half hour. Right now, got to take a break. Time for the news with Joan Jones on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories in the Trump administration announcing new tariffs on dozens of countries. It began at midnight, and they range from 10 to 12.5%. They're being imposed under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, targeting countries that have failed to prevent forced labor in the workplace. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer on CNN.
So for over 100 years, the United States has had a law on the books prohibiting the import of goods made with forced labor. This is common sense, and we've enforced this law to prohibit it. What seems like common sense, I think, to you and me, others haven't done. In other countries, no one really has these types of laws, and even in that small handful of countries that have them, they don't really enforce it.
And the tariffs cover over 60 countries that import 99% of the goods into the U.S. A Robertson County farm owner says the IRS is threatening to take his property over a refund mix-up. News Channel 5's Hannah McDonald first reported about Wilson Kirby.
She didn't make no mistake. I didn't make a mistake. They made a mistake.
4 years ago, Kirby received a $20,000 tax refund he says was sent in error. Sending it back was a struggle, he says.
This is your letter last summer that says, I received the wrong amount of tax refund on May 10th, 2022.
Yep.
And then, after all his efforts, he says the IRS demanded he pay interest on the money.
And now the IRS says Mr. Kirby owes so much interest, they're seizing his property. Well, that's where John Rich comes into the picture.
I'll tell you this, nobody's seizing his farm. Nobody's taking Mr. Kirby's farm. That is not going to happen. And he's not paying that money. He didn't ask for the refund in the first place.
Now, in June, John Rich was named President Trump's special envoy for American landowners. We'll keep you updated on this story as it unfolds. And Sean Diddy Combs isn't staying out of trouble in prison. ABC News reporting Combs has been involved in a fight at the prison where he's serving a 50-month sentence for transporting prostitutes. Diddy has been sent to solitary confinement. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It is 36 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand. Be back on Monday. We are having the changeover in the newsroom, and the next voice you'll hear out of that newsroom will be the, I assume that's Ken Weaver going to be in. Unless I didn't get the memo. I think Ken Weaver will be in, so we'll be doing that changeover. And I'm going to be bringing you a lot of news and information you can use all the way up until noon o'clock when Chad Benson takes over right here on Super Talk 99.7. Hi man, I've been wanting to talk about this. I want to get this off my chest. I'm just baffled, I guess is the only word that comes to my vocabulary that I can think of that helps me try to describe how I feel about what I'm seeing on the American political arena today with the rise of communism and socialism in America. It is just baffling to me how anybody can look at any of the communist countries around the world and say, yeah, give me some of that. I mean, I look around the world and all I see are failed nation states. Communism, you can't point to any successful country where communism and socialism have taken over the reins. They don't exist because it is a form of government and a system of government that is destined to eventually fail because you spend enough of other people's money till they don't have any money, and then what do? It collapses upon itself. It is shocking to me that in America today, we don't have a real appreciation of good old-fashioned capitalism. I embrace capitalism with every fiber of my being. I believe it is one of the things that made this country great. I think there is a lot of things that came together, and our founding fathers, as I look back and I read about them, I find them to be incredibly wise. Was there, some problems? Yeah, I mean, there were some problems. Did we get it right off the bat? No. We continued to perfect it, but the framework that was set up by our founding fathers is one of tremendous success. Government of, for, and by the people. It had the novelty of never having been tried quite that way. It turned out to be an incredible thing. A lot of things had to happen. I mean, number one, founding fathers were willing to take the big gamble to challenge England. They were willing to try to do something that was radically different, a different form of government. They laid out the rules for the revolution and for the new government, and they gave us a brilliant form of government. With an executive branch and a bicameral legislative branch, and two very different bodies, by the way. The House and Senate designed by our founding fathers to be two very different bodies. They gave us a judicial branch, and each of these powers given to each of the branches were designed to be a check and balance on the others. And, it's ugly sometimes, and we don't always agree with it, but I mean, by and large, the system has worked for 250 years, and it's, it's probably the worst form of government in the world except for all the others. It really, honestly, a lot of things came together. But part of what also came together was this idea that we were going to have in this country an economic engine that would give everybody the opportunity to succeed. In other words, there's no guarantee you're going to succeed because you could be a bonehead. But there's going to be a system in place where you can use the tools of the economy, the idea of capitalism, to advance your welfare and to pursue happiness and wealth and success. The only thing standing in front of in your way in America, from success is you. The decisions that you make, the decisions, the good ones, the bad ones, and the bad ones, they come together. I've always thought in America, and believe me, I've made mistakes. Truly, I've made, whoppers of mistakes in my career and in my life, and I've paid for the price for them, as a matter of fact. So, I'm not saying I have a perfect view here, but really, I look back on a life, I say, well, I've had a fairly successful broadcasting career, and all I had to do was make more good decisions than bad decisions. Every day, it's just, decisions are laid before you. The first one is, that alarm clock just went off. Am I going to hit the snooze alarm, or am I going to get up and make the bed? But you are presented yourself with a myriad of opportunities and a myriad of things that you can do with the day that the good Lord has given you. And if you make more good decisions than bad decisions, you will succeed in America. But no, what we have in America right now is a lot of people who look at the situation and they go, I need free stuff. The whole system is aligned against me. And so the communists sell out this line, we're going to give you free this and we're going to give you free that. And we don't believe that corporations should be able to make a profit, and we think success is a bad thing. We're all about the collective, and we're all going to scratch each other's backs. It is a system that is going to fail. It has always failed. It will always fail. It cannot succeed. It will collapse upon itself. But capitalism, on the other hand, gives anybody the opportunity. You take that opportunity and you make good decisions with your life. I've never understood why it is that in America today, where we have the opportunity to take, the days that are granted to us, and you can get a good basic education in this country, in most places. I got to tell you, everybody says, education. I got to Washington, D.C. as a correspondent on a high school education. I didn't go to college until I was in my 40s. And I have a master's degree now, but I started very late. So, it wasn't like this wonderful opportunity was laid before me because I had this great education. I was a horrible student in the early going. I came around late on, but I was not a great student. But I learned enough to get to Washington, D.C. And what did I do? I made more good decisions than bad decisions. And when my employers asked me to do this, I gave them that and then something. I gave them 110%, best I could do. And I've always been under the if you put your nose to the grindstone, if you keep your head down, you do your work and you do your work effectively, and you show up on time, and you have a willful, cheerful spirit about you, I just don't understand how you cannot succeed in America. But if you make a decision that, I'm going to bail out of high school and I'm not going to get my GED, maybe you made a decision to have premarital sex and somebody got pregnant, and the next thing you know, that sort of screwed up our opportunity. No, you made those decisions. Maybe you started, got involved in drugs. Not my fault. I didn't take you to raise. At the end of the day, why should I have to give you my money because I made good decisions? Why should I have to now give my money to people who have taken in their lives and made bad decisions with them? See, we're never promised it's going to be a rose garden in America. But we are promised that, if you work hard, you can accomplish and you can succeed. But the communists are against all of that. The whole concept is, you're going to give it to me because I deserve it. And we're going to take it from these people over here who have had. When did success become something evil? When did in America we look at people who have had success as somehow being vile criminals? We must take their money from them. They earn too much money. Who are they to say what I'm entitled to earn? If I come up with a good idea, or I have talent or ability that makes me a certain living, why should I feel bad about that? Why should we feel bad about our success? See, that's a much more positive thing. You know, when you talk about capitalism, you're talking about the opportunity. You're talking about opportunity for success. When you are talking about, socialism and communism, it's taking away from people who have had a good idea and giving it to people who were going to squander it in many cases. We're going to take from the rich and give to the poor. It's the whole Robin Hood approach. And you know what? As much as I found Robin Hood an entertaining story, I would like to keep the money that I earned. That's not wrong of me to have success, to earn a certain amount of money, and to keep it. I would like to keep as much of that as I can. I'll pay my part to Caesar that belongs to Caesar. I'll pay my taxes. I'll be happy to do that. But at some point, I'd like to keep that money. I don't want to give it to people who are made bad life decisions. I've never understood, why it is that we look at that, people who've had success, as somehow the bad guys. I think this whole thing about paying for, kids' college, that, we ought to pay for all our kids. I felt like such a chump. I saved the money for my kids' college. I saved the money. I put it back. I made investments. And as it turned out, they turned out to be really, really, really good investments. And I was able to put my child through 5 years, a master's program in 5 years. And it worked out great because I made good decisions. I didn't expect that somebody was going to hand it to me. Or I didn't expect that if I took out a student loan, which I have done in my own life, I took out a student loan to get my master's degree. I did. And it was helpful to me at that particular time. But you know what? I paid that loan back. I feel like such a chump to have actually thought that if I took out a loan, I had an obligation to pay it back. Why am I the bad guy for doing the right thing? Why are you the bad guy when you do the right thing? And why does anybody owe 1 red cent of what I have earned by making good decisions? Why should it automatically be transferred to you who have made bad decisions? Make better decisions. But I didn't take you to raise, as my mama used to say. But my mama did take me to raise. She did take me to raise. But you get my point. I just am baffled as to why these communists continue to grab a foothold. Somebody who's not having any of that, somebody who has about had enough of that, believe it or not, it's a Democrat voice who is telling Mondami and others to shut up. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
All right, drivers, we got a big problem over on the North Loop going southbound. A crash is blocking the left 2 lanes of 65 southbound past Rosa Parks Boulevard. And Colt Gray, the teenager accused of killing teachers and students in Georgia in 2024, has pleaded guilty. We'll tell you what his fate might be coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, I see that the change of command in the news closet has taken place, and Ken Weaver is now on duty.
What's going on, Brother Brian?
Ken Weaver reporting for duty, sir.
Yes, sir.
How are you? That's going well. It's going very well. We'll catch up with you in just a bit here.
You betcha.
I want to talk a little bit more about this whole Mamdani thing. Mamdani, I keep wanting to say his name. I can't say his name right. Mamdani apparently thinks that he had, at some point, he thought he might have the power to arrest Bibi Netanyahu when he came to New York for the UN. He has had to finally admit, grudgingly, you would have to say, that he doesn't have that ability.
There is a reason the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for his arrest. As human beings, we have spent generations building a shared understanding that there are crimes so grave, they offend all of humanity. Anyone, with their eyes, with their heart, with their conscience, should recognize the devastation he has wrought and understand that he belongs before a court of law. As I've said, I agree with the ICC that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested and tried for his crimes, as I do for anyone else charged by the ICC. My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant if Benjamin Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant.
How about that?
The federal government, however, does, and I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear. Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large. While we cannot end the genocide on our own, we can decide whether our silence will become another weapon, and we can examine every tool we have to defend the humanity and dignity of all people. That is my commitment to you.
So let me sit here and whine about it and tell you that there's nothing I can do about it. You never had the authority. He never had the authority. And even Democrats are saying, would you shut up? Here's John Fetterman.
Oh, he's a total clown. I mean, he has the authority to arrest Netanyahu any more than I would have the authority to arrest him in Washington, D.C. if he visited down in Washington, D.C. You're a mayor, dude. You know, pick up trash, fix some potholes, and really fix the homeless problem in your city, too. You know, you're way out of your league, and now this is irresponsible. But like I said, he's just a total clown. And it's just for clicks at this point. He knows that he has nothing actionable. Now, it's just pandering to the DSA communists and his friends, you know, in New York.
I guess that's probably what it was. The president is mentioning the fact that the Democrats seem to have gone all commie on us.
We build the future fearlessly and confidently so that America always will be strong, prosperous, and dominant. And the other thing we're going to add to that, we want to be free, and we're going to continue to be free as long as we're smart. And we can't be hoodwinked. We can't be taken advantage of by people that say you're going to have a free home, you're going to get free rent, everything's going to be free. What they don't say is a year later, everything is going to end up in squalor, destruction, and death, and also death for our country. So we have to stop the threat of the communist rhetoric that you're hearing right now, because these people, they don't act. I'm very happy a poll came out. It said they're highly educated, but doing very poorly. In other words, they're losers. They went to school, they got a good education, now they don't know what they're doing. So what they do is they complain about people like yourselves that have done so well. But we can't let the communist ideology we don't want to even think about it for this country.
Yeah, don't get me started on, you know, people going to college to get degrees that don't earn them a living. I mean, what did you think you were going to do with that French literature, you know, diploma that you got? It ain't going to help you very much. You know, underwater basket weaving would be more valuable. Yeah. Get you if you're going to go down that path, get an education that gets you a job. Think about it. And that just don't seem to, well, follow your passion. No, follow some thought about, getting a job when you come out of college. So you can go to work. What a concept. It's time for the news with Ken Weaver on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And again, drivers, we've got a problem going southbound on the North Loop. The right shoulder is now blocked by that crash. 65 southbound past Rosa Parks Boulevard. It's backed up all the way to where 65 and 24 split there, just north of downtown. Colt Gray, the teenager accused of killing 2 teachers and 2 students in the Appalachia High School shooting in Georgia in 2024, has pleaded guilty to all 55 charges in court this morning. The judge wanted to make clear,
Mr. Gray, you understand all 55 charges? Yes, sir. And you understand that you would be pleading guilty to the entire indictment? Is that right? Yes, Your Honor.
Gray now faces a minimum sentence of life in prison. A jury in March convicted Gray's father, Colin Gray, on charges of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter after reportedly giving his son the rifle he later used in the massacre. And as the U.S. military continues its attacks on Iran, launching a 13th straight night of attacks, Iran has again been responding by targeting American allies in the region. And says ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
Iran this morning is out with a stark new warning telling civilians in countries that are hosting U.S. military personnel to stay at least 500 meters from any building suspected of housing American forces.
And the president claiming Iran wants to come back to the table, but he's not yet willing to negotiate. Trump saying they haven't received enough pain yet. Oil prices pushed higher by nearly 2 full weeks of U.S. attacks on Iran and retaliation by Iran, hitting neighbors in the Middle East. And ABC News Chief Business and Economics correspondent Rebecca Jarvis says that's pushing up gasoline prices.
National average this morning, $4.09 a gallon. It has been creeping higher since this re-escalation. Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan predicts the U.S. could see $4.25 to $4.40 a gallon very soon. And it all comes back to the price of oil. Multiple routes are threatened with the price of oil about $89.37 a barrel this morning.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, Gas Buddy puts us down half a cent from yesterday at $3.74 per gallon on average. Well, Governor Lee has joined nearly 24 Republican governors in signing President Trump's voluntary ratepayer protection pledge that is intended to keep residential electric customers from paying for power infrastructure needed by large AI data centers. It encourages data center companies to cover the cost of the energy and grid upgrades they require. And the Tennessee Valley Authority has signed the Trump administration's ratepayer protection pledge, too. TVA says it is reviewing how it charges major power users, including AI companies, and plans to present proposed rate changes next month. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It is 6 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It is Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand today. Chris will be back on Monday in his rightful spot, and I will return to relative obscurity here in bucolic Watertown, from whence I am broadcasting today. And we got Ken Weaver now in the newsroom, and Mason still pushing all the blinky buttons, making sure everything's going well. And so far, it's gone very well. Good to be with you. It's good to be able to, clear the throat out and have get some things off my chest. It's personal. It's therapy for me, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to do it now and then when these guys take a day off. I want to go to the swamp and talk about several things going in the swamp. Boy, I tell you what, the swamp is being really swampy these days. It truly is. I mean, there's a lot of nastiness going on behind the scenes. Some of it is really quite surprising. Have you heard this? So you're J.D. Vance, you've got a security detail around you, and, there are people who are out to kill you. I mean, it's true. The threats against the executive branch right now probably at an all-time high. So you need your Secret Service, and you need to know you can trust them, and you need to know that they're going to, take a bullet for you and do what needs to be done. And then this happens. From FoxNews.com. Secret Service agent on J.D. Vance's detail investigated for allegedly leaking operational security information. Probe follows reports of frustration among agents over last-minute family travel and off-the-record trips. Well, you know what? Here's what I would say about that. If you're the Vice President of the United States and you're raising a family, and you're trying to balance, as Vice President of the United States, balance the duties of your office with your responsibilities as a father, and he's very dedicated as a father and a husband. You know what? It's just the job of the Secret Service to get you from point A to point B safely and to make sure that all of the logistics are taken care of. And that is your responsibility. And yes, you are also responsible for protecting the family of the vice president to make sure that they are safe. If people are going to jump into these jobs and take on these responsibilities, the least we can do in return as a country is make sure that they can accomplish those jobs to which they've been elected in a safe manner. But apparently, if you're the vice president of the United States, he's got somebody on his staff who, it would seem, may have been leaking information from the Secret Service. U.S. Secret Service agent assigned to Vice President J.D. Vance security detail is being investigated over allegations of leaking sensitive information. Remember, the Vice President is the subject of an administrative investigation and potential criminal inquiry involving allegations of compromising operational and informational security. Secret Service of Communications Anthony Guglielmi said in a statement to Fox News. The agency would not comment on the specifics of the case, but noted that, quote, any conduct that potentially threatens the safety of a protectee will not be tolerated. Probe comes 1 week after MS Now, used to be MSNBC, report detailed alleged frustrations with Vance's security detail over last-minute personal and family travel requests. 1 day after the story was published, MS Now reported Vance's office canceled a helicopter flight scheduled for his son's golf lesson. Yeah, you heard about this, didn't you? The Trump administration said the proposed use of Marine 2, the call sign for the helicopter carrying the vice president, was for operational reasons. Compared to a motorcade, it drastically decreased the burden on law enforcement and eliminated the inconvenience of road closures and disruptions to motorists along the driving route. The current and former Secret Service agents pointed out that prior vice presidents did not use such expensive government perks for their children. You know what? I don't know the circumstances of exactly what they were trying to accomplish, but But if it was deemed necessary for this family to continue their life, there's an expense that comes with that. Yeah, I mean, you're asking people basically to give up a great deal of their personal freedom in order to become vice president of the United States. This role. Sure, they get paid for it at all, but I mean, you're also asking them to give up a tremendous amount of personal freedom. You're asking the family to give up a tremendous amount of personal freedom. And look, I think we could all point back to times where we said, what was Beau Biden doing on that trip, and what was Beau Biden doing here? And it bothered us a little bit, I suppose. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what is the job of the Secret Service? To let these people live as normal a life as they possibly can, and to accommodate getting them from point A to point B in a safe manner in which they are protected. So, does that cost money from time to time? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And and he doesn't need to be looking over his shoulder wondering who on this Secret Service detail can I trust and who can I not trust? I mean, who's out there whispering stuff to the press corps from my Secret Service detail? Secret Service has an obligation to get to the bottom of that and to take whatever measures are necessary to make sure that the message gets sent. That's not supposed to be something that you do. Again, about the swamp, man, it's a rough place. Former special counsel Jack Smith has been hit with a criminal referral Wednesday for allegedly misleading House lawmakers about the Biden-era investigation of President Trump. In his complaint to the Justice Department House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan, Republican Ohio, contended the newly released records that have just come out appeared to contradict Smith's testimony to the panel that he did not obtain or review text messages from lawmakers as his team looked into Trump's alleged efforts to interfere in the 2020 election. I mean, this Jack Smith was digging around in everybody's garbage, right? The Committee on the Judiciary writes to refer strong evidence that appears to show Jack Smith, former special counsel, knowingly made false statements during his December 17th, 2025 deposition. Jordan wrote in a letter to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, which has been obtained by the New York Post. So Jack Smith has got some splaining to do, it would seem. While testifying under oath, Mr. Smith seemingly made willfully and intentionally false statements of material fact that contradict new documents obtained by the committee from the Department of Justice. Jordan continued, the committee is providing this information for the DOJ to investigate a potential violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. We all remember that one, right? During his deposition, Smith was asked if he sought a search warrant for the content of any text message from members of Congress. No, I don't recall that. The former special counsel responded, maintaining that he only obtained lawmaker toll records. Toll records are the records of, what number you called and how long did you call them for and who called you and how long did you talk. Those are what they call pen data, but they weren't supposed to have transcripts. But which included information about calls made and received and when text messages were transmitted, but not their content. Jordan argued the former special counsel's response gave the impression that neither Mr. Smith nor his team had access to the content of members' privileged text messages. We now know this to be false. They were spying on conservative members of Congress. The DOJ informed Grassley that Smith's teams directly accessed text messages between lawmakers and White House employees sent between October of 2020 and January 20th of 2021 after a filter team set up by the special counsel office to ensure investigators weren't accessing privileged documents or violating officials' rights was, quote-unquote, bypassed. There's a way to do this, by the way. but they didn't follow the rules and regulations. Swamp is being extremely, extremely swampy. Elsewhere in the swamp today, the president apparently trying to decide whether he steps things up with Iran or returns to the negotiating table. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I think he would, in a perfect world, would like to be done there, be finished, be wrapped up. But the Iranians, knowing this, they are doing everything they can to keep him tied up and prolonged, because they feel like sooner or later he's going to start caring more about the midterm elections than he does about winning in Iran. I think that's a bad judgment on their part. I think Trump understands that once you start it, you got to finish it. Once you break it, you got to get in there and fix it. And so I think he's trying to do that, and I think he realizes this may take a while now, may not be able to get this done, but the question is, do you really ramp it up? Do you really go to the nth degree? Or is there some way that you can get the Iranians to actually start obeying these agreements that they say that they're signing on to? I don't know. Trump did not give a deadline for his decision as to whether to go forward with Operation Epic Fury. 2 other U.S. officials confirmed no call has been made, no orders have been given to the military. The current escalation has caused oil prices to eclipse $100 a barrel. That's right. We did get it down to, in the 60s, and now it's bumping up against 100 again, because oil is not as flowing out of the Strait of Hormuz like we hoped that it might. So that is got to be in the back of the mind, because there's nothing that ripples through the economy faster than an increase in the price of gasoline, and you don't want your inflation to go up in a midterm election year. So, it's a real game of chicken, really, at this point. I mean, it seems to me. The Iranians are counting on the fact that Trump needs to get out for the midterm elections, and they're trying to, keep things percolating as long as they possibly can, hoping that they can maintain some modicum of something they can claim as a victory. It's not easy to do given how badly they've been hurt, but that's what they would like. They would like to drag this out so that Trump has to walk away and they can go back to doing the things that they want to do, so they're dragging it out. Trump, on the other hand, is running the risk of, how quickly can I wrap this up if I do? I go in and jump in and go full bore? Can I wrap it up more quickly? Or does that just string the thing along? Tough call, because he's got to look at the midterm elections and the impact of higher prices of gasoline are going to have on the economy. That's the thing he's got to worry about. So I don't know how it's going to get resolved. My sense of it is Trump is in. Once he started this thing in Iran, he's going to try to finish it. I think in a perfect world, he would like to finish it sooner rather than later. But he may not be able to accomplish that sooner rather than later, given the fact that the Iranians have found that they can still stir the pot in that region, still cause some modicum of trouble. They're not. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's. I'll tell you how much of a control we have over the region. Trump now doesn't even bother making it a secret what he's going to hit next, because he knows that we can go in there with complete impunity and do it. The Iranians at this point have no ability to stop aerial bombardment anywhere in Iran. They just don't. Trump says, I don't even need to make it a secret anymore because there's nothing they can do about it. And that's true. But they can still lob missiles occasionally, and they still have some drones that they can lob out. They still cause problems in the region, and we seem to, we seem to not be able to knock that out completely. And so they're going to stir the pot and cause as much trouble as they possibly can. The question, I think, is who blinks first? Who blinks first? 20 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand.
A Georgia school shooter pleads guilty to all charges. And Tennessee Governor Bill Lee backing that new pledge announced by President Trump that would have massive data centers pay for their own electricity. That's coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's fortuitous that you mentioned that, because that's the thing I was just about to talk about, these data centers.
That's a heck of a segue right there, Brother Brian.
That's right. I mean, you just like you set me up, and I just like knocked it right out of the park. Boom, man. It's right going over the left field wall.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And, these data centers, I mean, they're very controversial. I've sort of, on one hand, I understand that, I think probably we're going to need them. I think they can be an economic engine. I can't think that they can be helpful, and definitely everything's going to be, AI is going to be to us in the future what the internet is today to most of us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, do you feel that way, or do you think that's an overstatement?
Detrimental to us?
That they're just as important the data centers in the future are going to be just as important to us in the future as we look at like the internet is to us on a daily basis now.
I go from what President Trump said yesterday, and I believe him. China, we do not want China to get ahead of us in AI.
No, we don't.
And here's the thing about China. When China wants more data centers, they don't ask. They just build them.
Right.
And in order for us to stay ahead of China, we're going to have these centers. And when we're up against somebody like China, who, like I said, they'll just build them, we've got to do something.
Right.
We cannot just let them take us over like that.
No, we really can't. We need to maintain the edge in that. And I just, again, I know that there are concerns. Isn't it interesting that a lot of the things we're concerned about right now all have to do with technology?
Yes.
but that really is the way it is right now. AI, we're concerned about it. The data centers, you got to have the data centers to have the AI, but they have their own, series of problems. I guess where I'm at on it, and I'm trying to, try to decide where I am. I think there are places perhaps we should not build data centers. I just think there are some places where it makes sense that maybe this is not the best place for one.
Yeah.
And maybe you could make an argument, and apparently about 500,000 people in our area have signed some kind of statement saying that they're against the one that they want to build out here next to the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we don't need to build it next to a zoo, but we need to build them. The problem is that, okay, today you say you don't want to build it next to a zoo, so you go over here, and then those people say, well, no, we got reasons why you can't build that in my backyard.
Yeah.
And then where do you build them?
It seems like everywhere you go, you're going to run into some sort of opposition.
Absolutely. I think would, I know that if they came and said, hey, we're going to build one over here, right down the road from where you live, Wilson, I wouldn't be thrilled about it.
Right.
And everybody's going to have that reaction, but we do need them. The thing I'm also concerned about is I think we need to make sure, because here's what I know about these data centers. It takes a tremendous amount of electricity to operate them and a tremendous amount of water to cool them. And I don't want a situation to ever evolve where, like, we've had in the state of Tennessee, and other states have had them from time to time. Oh, we've got so much demand for electricity right now because it's so cold or it's so hot right now. Everybody's using it, and we may have to have rolling brownouts. Well, okay, listen, I want my air conditioning to be in the, about 2 levels above the data center for who gets to have the electricity.
Yeah, I want the air conditioner working.
I want the AC I never want to be without AC. If I can help it in the summertime.
Right.
And so, I want to make sure that we're putting people over the data centers if we get to those critical masses. But it seems like what they're saying here is that the new ones are going to have have the ability to generate their own electricity.
Yeah. Trump says they can build their own power plants.
Yep. So, okay. That's part of it.
Yeah, but
then there's the water.
Yeah, but you're going to have to deal with states.
and local community. I mean, obviously,
yeah. I mean, it sounds really simple on the surface. But when you get right down into it, I wonder just how easy that's going to be.
Here, the thing I know is about people is they just don't like change. And if you say, well, we're going to build this thing over here, no, we're not going to. That's a change, and I don't like it. And again, I have some sympathy for the fact that everybody's going to have a good reason not to have this thing in their backyard. You just got to build some of them somewhere. So we got to figure that out. It'll be interesting to see who finds these things something that they want in their neighborhood. That'll be the thing to see. All right, got to let it go right there. Time for the news with Ken Weaver. Hope he's had time to get ready because I've been talking at him. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Colt Gray, the teenager accused of killing 2 teachers and 2 students in the Appalachia High School shooting in Georgia in 2024, has pleaded guilty to all 55 charges in court this morning, and the judge wanted to make clear
the maximum punishment that you're facing is the rest of your life in prison without parole. You understand that? Yes,
Gray now faces a minimum sentence of life in prison. A jury in March convicted Gray's father, Colin Gray, on charges of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter after reportedly giving his son the rifle he later used in the massacre. Here in Tennessee, Governor Lee backing that new pledge aimed at protecting utility customers from the costs of powering massive data centers. The document promoted by President Trump calls on AI and cloud computing companies to pay for the energy resources their facilities need. While the pledge carries no legal authority, supporters say it will help keep electricity costs down for households and businesses if they agree to the pledge. The Tennessee Valley Authority has also signed on. TVA says it remains committed to maintaining affordable and reliable power for the 10 million people it serves across 7 states. TVA is expected to propose new rate structures for large power users next month. And chalk one up for the robots. ABC's Jim Ryan says an independent study finds that Waymo driverless taxis are involved in fewer accidents than cars with humans at the wheel.
From the absurd to the terrifying.
There's a fire around the corner. You need to move this car. You're blocking the roadway.
Incidents involving autonomous vehicles keep happening. But after compiling the data,
what we're seeing is a nice pattern.
Eric Teo of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety has found
fewer crashes overall, less egregious types of crashes, and less severe crashes.
One red light in the study was Austin, where Waymo vehicles were involved in 4% more crashes than human drivers. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's 37 past the hour right now on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand. He'll return on Monday. So I'll be sure and join in then. Coming up in just a few moments, we'll be joined by Chad Benson, who will carry on from noon until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And, of course, you know, after that, it's Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy, he'll bring you up to date with everything that's going on this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7. Good day to just settle in so that you stay alert, cunning, and sly, and well plugged into what's going on in the world around you. One of the things that I would warn you that probably if they're all, I love news, you know, about politics and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, there's a whole category that I really love when you're telling news stories, and that is news you can use. You know, they say, now, Brian, that was a bit of news that you could use. I could really use that news. No story perhaps falls into that category more than the lettuce outbreak, the cyclospora outbreak that is causing a major problem with explosive diarrhea. It's not just diarrhea, Ken Weaver. It's not just diarrhea. It's explosive diarrhea. It explodes. Nation's largest multi-state outbreak of cyclosporasis linked to shredded lettuce. See, here's the thing. It's always lettuce. This is why I don't eat lettuce. I don't put any lettuce on my food. You know? Nobody gets, you know, cyclosporasis from eating, I don't know, chicken wings.
I was going to say, you're more of a cabbage guy?
No, I mean, I like a good cabbage. But, you know, when cabbage is boiled, you know, and salads are generally not.
Nope.
I just don't like salad.
Not a fan.
Not a big salad guy. But so it's in Illinois, Kansas, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, joining Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, and hard-hit Michigan. Those Michiganders have got a lot of explosive diarrhea going on right now. Food and Drugs investigating a separate cyclosporasis outbreak limited to an unidentified food product or products, trying to investigate the source of the parasite that causes this and contain its spread amid confusion. U.S. health and food regulators have zeroed in on the shredded iceberg lettuce supplied by a company called Taylor Farms. Mexican authorities on Thursday said that samples of lettuce and water from Taylor Farms, have a plant in central Mexico, tested negative for cyclospora. However, the result does not disprove the FDA's administration's earlier identification as Taylor Farms de Mexico as the likely source of the outbreak. So far, you know, here's the thing. This is a low number. You know it is. CDC has tallied 1,947 people infected with cyclospora who had reported eating at Taco Bell's in 9 states. See, I have a feeling a lot of people just figured it out, probably did not report. Yep, I went and had me a Taco Bell taco with lettuce on it. That's probably what's causing me to have this explosive diarrhea. Golly. Talking about, this whole thing with the Save America Act. And I spent, when I came in the 9 o'clock hour, I was trying to make the case that, I don't think that we're going to get this across the goal line. It's maddening. I don't understand it. I mean, 85% of all voters want them to pass the Save America Act. 85% want voter ID. They want Americans to vote in federal elections, not foreigners. And the things that are in the Save America Act are so important to having, I think, election integrity. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing I would like to see more personally than the passage of the Save America Act. But apparently we can't get there. And everybody's really, all you hear is an attack. And I'm going to say that, you can, it's fair to say, well, this is on the majority leader. He's supposed to whip the votes. That's just really not the way it works in the United States Senate. I am less, I look at this as less as a John Thune problem and more of a Susan Collins problem, a Lisa Murkowski problem. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what's going on these days. What's going on with Mitch McConnell? What about Rand Paul? He votes, you never know where he's going to be on some of these things. So, you got all of these people who won't vote for it, and so you can't get it across the goal line. And I just, I don't think that we should blame John Thune. I think we should find the 4 or 5. Well, we got 53 Republicans. Some of them Republicans in name only, to be sure. But we got 53 people with an R after their names. Who are the ones that are standing in the way of getting us an even 50 votes so the vice president can come in and break the tie? Who are they? Those are the people that we need to be calling. And we're not alone in being frustrated. There's some Democrats who are very frustrated about this as well. Chief among them, James Carville, believe it or not. James Carville tells Democrats to just quit fighting against voter ID requirements, warns it polls at 75%, and that's just for Republicans. That's just for Democrats. The Democrats, 75% of Democrats believe they want to see the Save America Act passed. They want voter ID. They want secure elections, and they don't want people who are not authorized to vote in these elections to cast their ballots. And so, in an item that polls, even for Democrats, at 75%, can you think of anything that Democrats agree on at 75%? Not many things. So 85% of Americans want to see this writ large. That's like virtually all Republicans and virtually all independents want to see this happen, and 75% of Democrats want to see it happen, and we can't get it across the goal line. But, whose fault is that? Sure, I'd love to see some Democrats come along, but you know what? We've got 53 votes in the Senate. Who's standing in the way? I want to name names. I don't want to just say, we're short. We don't have enough votes. Who? Who is officially against it? Give us the count. You don't hear them give that information, do you? Anyway, Carville. Back to Carville. From FoxNews.com. Carville tells Democrats to just quit fighting against voter ID requirements, warns that it polls at 75%. Okay, they're reading some of this. Veteran Democrat strategist James Carville warned Democrats Thursday that the American public believes they don't care about voter fraud, and the best thing they can do is stop fighting against voter ID requirements and move on to other issues. Yes. If the Democrats are so convinced that it's not an issue, that's what's every time this comes up, everybody says, well, there's really not a big issue. We don't really have a real problem with people voting who aren't supposed to vote. Well, if that's the case, then pass the dang bill. It doesn't make a whit of difference, does it? Veteran Democrats says Democrats believe that the American public believes they don't care about voter fraud. The best thing to do is stop fighting against the voter ID requirements and move on. His comments come as the Republicans in Congress have been pushing to pass the SAVE Act, which would create a new federal proof of citizenship mandate in the voter registration process. Carville argued that while he believes there is a negligible amount of voter fraud, refusing to put photo ID safeguards against it is a terrible hill for Democrats to die on. He's right. So, you can't have it both ways. Either it's not a problem, not a big problem. If it's such a big problem, then pass the bill. And then, no harm, no foul then, right? The problem is they know that it's a bigger problem than you perceive. And they know it's going to hurt them, and they don't want it. But the bottom line is, we've got to make sure that our elections have integrity, and we need to pass this thing. I don't know how it's going to happen. I mean, if you can't pass it through regular order, which would require 60 votes, and now you're being told that, we're going to wrap it up in a budget matter, and that would only require 50 votes. We can do this through reconciliation or some sort of leisure domain that they pull out of some kind of, parliamentarian trick that they pull, and they can, now all we need is 50 votes, and then they tell us, we don't have 50 votes. Then I think it's incumbent, if you want to be mad at Senator Thune, be mad because he won't tell you where the votes lie. Senators don't want to be put on the record on this matter. They don't. It makes them squirm because they know that they are going to. Many of them want to take the unpopular position of protecting the filibuster, and many of them, I don't know what their objection is to this law. I just can't understand it whatsoever. But apparently, they don't have, out of the 53 R's, there are 53 R's in the United States Senate, they don't have 50 votes, which is the bare minimum they would need to have the vice president come in and break the tie. So who are the bad actors? Tell us who they are. So we can, doesn't do any good to yell at Thune. You're just yelling at the messenger. He's telling you, I don't have the votes. What we need to know is, where do the votes lie? Where are the people standing in the way of passing a bill that 85% of Americans want? We have a right to know that information, and that's what we need to know. So then we can start making calls to the right people. You get enough calls to the right people, and they'll get the message. Right now, we just need to know who's standing in your way. I think we know a couple. We don't have 50 votes, and you tell us where those votes lie. Let us go to work on them. We'll convince them. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy with Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and this morning we are out and about at my house, my brand new house that I've been talking about on the radio, with Nate from USS. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm excellent. How about you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
We invited Nate out. Obviously, when you're a new homeowner, especially when you buy a house that's got a few years on it, you don't know what you're dealing with in terms of foundation. And I know that Nate knows a lot more about what I don't see and what I don't know about than I do. So bring the experts out and get them to check out your house. Hey guys, Matt Murphy again with Nate with USS, and Nate has just wrapped up kind of a look at the house. And Nate, what'd you find?
Well, your house is in pretty good shape for the age of it. I had to look pretty hard to find.
Okay.
Your house being on a slope like it is here, I think we could do a lot of good by trying to terminate your downspouts a little further from the house there.
Okay.
Roof water is the killer of foundations, and so if we can just get it to a positive grade to drain away from your house, I think that's real cheap insurance.
You want to kind of get it out and downhill.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
So
the idea.
make sure that it doesn't come right back down towards the foundation walls and causing issues, settlement or leakage.
Now, if folks are watching this video and they are like, we need to get Nate out to the house to do a look. I mean, it took, I watched you do it. It's, 30, 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
To do a comprehensive kind of an examination around the house. And they just give you a call and schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. You can call our main phone number, or you can call reach USSTN.com and schedule right through the website there. Our girls in the call center will get back to you just about immediately, as long as it's during business hours. So
this just makes a lot of sense, folks, for you guys to do an examination of your house like we've done, to check it out. I'm going to get those gutters done with Nate and his team at USS, and then we'll do a video and let you know how those look at the end of all of this. So thank you, guys.
Hey, that'd be great.
We appreciate you, brother.
Matt, we appreciate you.
It is 55 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. This is the Chris Hand Show. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand for the last few minutes. And this is, of course, where we enjoy having our chat with Chad, our Chad Chat. Hey, Chad Benson.
What's going on, my man? How you doing out there?
I'm doing very well. Doing very better than this guy that works at the FedEx plant in Memphis, you know. That's the busiest airport in America overnight, I think, is Memphis, Tennessee. Is all those FedEx planes. They all land there, and then they swap packages and take off. I did not know this, but apparently you can ship via FedEx a lot of things, including iguanas.
You can ship anything. So when I get my giant lizards, because I have probably 15 or 20. Most of them are out right now, breeding with other hobbyists. But we ship them. There's a special company you can use where you pack them up. Whoever packed that one up did not do it correctly.
Yeah.
So
the story is that the guy opens up this bag is moving, and somehow the bag comes open, and a 6-foot-long iguana emerges, and the guy is running around in the warehouse trying to scoop the iguana back in the bag.
Yes, iguanas are not. They're not nice. Everybody thinks iguanas are nice. They're awful. My lizards that eat meat, seriously, they are way friendlier than iguanas.
I got to be honest with you. I did not know you were truly into lizards.
Yes, I have about 15 or 20. I've been in the hobby forever and a day, and I've had just about every animal you can think of. And when I mean every animal, if it could kill you, venomous, I've had it. If it could potentially gobble you up eventually when it gets full grown, I've had it. And now mostly what I have is some tortoises, but I've got lizards now that they're out and they're with other people, and we kind of split whatever we get out of the eggs. Because if you're not aware of this, they're rather expensive. And there's a new show coming out, man. So everybody liked the Tiger King and stuff like that. There's a new show coming out on HBO about the reptile version of the Tiger King. And if you thought the Tiger King guy was crazy, these guys are mobsters that are straight hitmen. It's insane.
Yeah, I sort of got over my need, for my reptile thing with rattlesnakes in West Texas where I grew up.
Well, yeah, you grew up in a place, it's like, and you've been out, and you know this, Brian, man. People don't realize about like you. When I'm out in Arizona, I'll be getting ready to, to hit take a swing on the golf course, and I'll look over, and here comes a rattler. And you're like, okay,
yep, get out of the way. Yeah.
Tarantulas too, because we're near Mexico.
Oh, yeah, tarantulas and rattlers. Yeah, I mean, I remember one time being out in West Texas with a friend of mine who was an East Coast cameraman. And we were out shooting stuff out in West Texas for a documentary we're working on, and he wanted to stop and get a picture of the pump jack, with the beautiful West Texas sunset in the background as the pump jack was pumping oil. He's saying it was going to be a beautiful shot. I said, okay, well, when you get out there, be careful, stay upwind of the pump jack because it has hydrogen sulfide gas, and one breath will kill you and it'll knock you out. Okay. I said, and look out for the rattlesnakes. This is the time of day that they're out, and so watch out for the rattlesnakes. And oh yeah, and by the way, if you see something that looks like a hog coming at you, a javelina hog, you need to get it. He said, I don't really think I need the picture that badly.
No, and you know this more than anything, man. I'll take the rattlesnake over the javelina every day.
Oh, man. Any day. That javelina hog will tear you up, man. They are mean.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, what you got coming up here on your 3-hour extravaganza?
Just text Monty Fritz. He's going to be here in an hour. So we got an hour with Monty. We're going to sit down and talk about him, why him, find out more about him. As we talk about, obviously, the governor's race that gets closer in the primaries. We're going to talk a little bit. A question, speaking of animals, everybody loves the orca and they're great and Shamu and everything. Maybe I think we're looking at this all wrong. I think they're awful. And I think they're announcing to the world that they're awful.
Well, okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And a bunch of other good stuff on the way. Maybe some Iran stuff. You know how it is, man. We're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
You'll have my rapt attention. It's coming up next right here on Super Talk 99.7. Thank you so much for letting me fill in here for Chris Hand. He'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Twelve o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Drivers, we've got a crash blocking the left lane of 40 eastbound in Dixon. That's going to be the Centerville-Dixon, Tennessee 46, exit 172. As data centers expand across Tennessee, Governor Lee's endorsed President Trump's ratepayer protection pledge. The voluntary agreement says companies behind large data centers should help fund needed power generation and grid improvements instead of that cost falling on consumers. TVA is signed on too. TVA now evaluating potential changes to rates for large industrial customers, including AI-related operations. The proposed change